let's go to St James's Park. Well, for me, game of the weekend. Newcastle hosting Manchester City. City's first game of 2024. Get a look at them. We knew Kevin De Bruyne was going to be involved in the squad. He was on the bench. It was a City team, well set up, and starting to get one or two bodies back in. No Earle and Haaland. His foot injury looks like it's going to take a little while longer, but he's going to be back. But still a strong City team against a Newcastle team that I have to say is struggling with injuries. Joe Ellington just pulled his thigh. Looks like he could be out for sort of minimum of 6 weeks, I think they're saying. So he could ill afford that, Eddie Howe. But what a game, mate. What a game of football. Again, these are the games that, this league just produce, and there's so much to marvel. I mean, all the goals could be contenders for a goal of the week or goal of the month contenders. And in the end, City get the job done. Kevin De Bruyne again shows why he's a difference maker. And a young kid, Oscar Bob, comes on, Rob, and has a magic moment for his first Premier League goal. I mean, we had it all at St James's Park.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, for people who watch this game, I mean, it was such a great game, such great intensity with quality. And, we sometimes moan about other sides. And, when I looked at Man City, Rob, and there's a million things to say about them, but in general, they carry no passengers, both with the ball and without the ball. In fact, both of these teams, I think I made a note, there's a phrase like being a two-way player, getting and doing your attacking side, but also doing your defensive side. Both of these teams do it brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly. And Man City's quality, Rob, matched with a very obvious spring in their step, a very obvious, they've had a break, they've got De Bruyne coming back, which we'll get to him. But there's a look about them now that we all recognise, and I think everybody recognises. I mean, you think about from Newcastle's point of view, right, Rob? They've had. I think they had a full week to prepare for this game, and they do a pretty good job of good shape. They take their counter-attacks brilliantly. They score 2 really good goals from a similar position. And Isak and Anthony Gordon. They defend well in the hole. They're at home at St James's Park. It's a brilliant atmosphere. It's an intense game like they like, and they still lost. They still lost after doing everything in a really great way to try and thwart Man City. That's where we are with City, Rob. That's where we are with them right now. Where they could. Well, I can't even say they looked vulnerable. They were 2 really good goals from Newcastle United. In some ways, You can't stop that. The really nice benders, but the drive and those subs and Kevin De Bruyne's kind of newfound hunger. I think I retweeted a tweet saying like, "Oh, it felt good to be back. That was a lot of fun today." Something like that. There's talk about him having a first break he's had for 10 years of a period of time with the injury that he had, his hamstring, really serious hamstring injury that he seems to have recovered from so far really well. A refreshed Kevin De Bruyne with the quality, with the drive, with the we're not up there at the top right now. Let's get back to the top. That's pretty scary for everybody else, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. He's the standard bearer of the football club, and you can tell the other players recognise that and recognise him. He does. He plays with a fluency that looks like the spring's back in his step as well as the players. Their football, Rob, it continues, and in a tough game that Newcastle competed particularly well. 2 beautiful goals, catching City in areas where there might be a little bit of weakness where they play. But Pep's just listen. It's the little tweaks he did, Rob. I don't know if how much you were watching the game, but we were seeing how Foden and Doku were coming inside, almost playing like 10s, and then Bernardo Silva they're getting the overloads, and then they'd use Walker on the right-hand side and Gvardiol going down the left-hand side.
Gvardiol on the left.
So they were like outnumbering you in the middle of the park, stretching you right across the pitch, and then the Bernardo Silva goal comes through a change of play out to Walker, who puts it across, and Bernardo Silva with a beautiful finish to start it off, and then as you say, it all got going. But I mean, Kevin De Bruyne it's almost unfair that City can be that good, and I know they haven't been at their sparkling best, but then you've still got De Bruyne comes in and does what he does. You can imagine the other fella, Haaland, sitting at home like can't wait to get at it again. So he's going to be like fired up, like there'll be a million goals from him in the first 3 games, when he gets back. And all that we thought and all that people have said, Rob, I go back to when Phil Neville was sitting next to me a few weeks ago and talked about when they won the treble. And it was something that really hit home when he said, the season after, we just couldn't quite get our heads on it. And they had the great Sir Alex Ferguson, the manager. And he said, it affects you. And he said, it'll affect City. And the bit of that hunger goes. I just don't... I've seen it again, and I just can't believe that it's going to happen with this group of players. I cannot believe it's going to happen.
It might have gone a little bit, dissipated the first half of the season.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just looks like it's back in full, and the others didn't take advantage enough.
Yeah.
City is still within touching distance, and it just looks like, I know they had a warm weather break to the Middle East again. I think they normally do that when they've got this opportunity, and they look superb. And I'll jump to my underappreciated performer, Rob. And again, I do this quite a few times where it's underappreciated / one to watch, and maybe it's an easy one because he scored a great goal. But Oscar Bob, and I think we mentioned this kid before, Rob, when he came on the last appearances that he's had. I'm like, wow.
Played a lovely ball to Phil Foden, didn't he, when Alvarez scored? Remember the left foot he played?
Yeah, good memory, mate. Yeah. Good shout. Yeah, I think he's special. He's special, and Pep said it afterwards that people kind of explained how he's a special talent. Other players have said that when he's joined training. I think he said he's the best in the youth team, in the under-23s. This Oscar Bob, he looks a silky little left footer. Maybe one of the reasons why Cole Palmer, Rob, was allowed to leave the club. When you've got Oscar Bob, this little guy that's. I mean, you know what I'm going to say. I don't want to say it, but it's almost like that small, left-footed, Messi-like type of qualities that he's got. And and again, like, I'm sure people realise that I'm not saying he's going to be the next Messi, but he's that diminutive, clever, creative, spots a pass. I mean, the little shuffle feet for the finish, and the touch initially from a De Bruyne ball. So De Bruyne scores one and then sets up or plays the ball up to Oscar Bob. So I just wanted to give everybody a shout. Oscar Bob,
that's a great shout.
Watch him, enjoy him. And, I think he's a talent. And he's another. I mean, it's just incredible, the players that come through their academy and get developed, and they get moulded, and they get support. And by the way, people listening, watching, small players, I've said this before, this is the small players are back, because in our era, Rob, you couldn't be a small player. We had one at Middlesbrough, a Brazilian called Juninho, that was incredible. There was very few small players kind of made it because of the physicality in the Premier League. And now you're seeing these small, brilliant little footballers. Anybody out there that's maybe not as big as some of the other guys in the team, they can absolutely be a very important part of this game going forward. And with the talent, the awareness, the vision, and the quality that they can provide. And I think you're seeing it with Oscar Bob. And it's going to be fun, Rob, to see him mature, get more minutes, and just see, is he that guy? Is he another Phil Foden, Rob, that's about end product? And it's not fancy kind of possession. That he creates things and makes things happen a lot. What a talent.
It's almost like they've got a patent on left-sided talented footballers. When you think Cole Palmer was there, you think of Foden, you think of Bob. I mean, Rico Lewis may be a little bit different, but another from the academy. And it's not just, Rob, that, the talent. The academy deserves a lot of credit, because you've still got to teach these boys, and especially in a system like Pep's, where we saw Jack Grealish, a player with great talent and good football IQ, take him a year to learn how to play in that system. Rico Lewis jumps into midfield and can run a game from midfield. Oscar Bob from the left-hand side can come in field, play combinations. So they've also been well coached, which I think is a really important point as well that shouldn't be overlooked. You've got to put the time in, you've got to put the work in with these kids. And Man City do that, and they're reaping the benefits. So, it's a really good shout, Oscar Bob.
Rob,
one we can look through,
I just wanted to add one thing, Rob, as you're saying about that with the system and the players are grooved. I'll tell you what, as well, I bet's going on is the mentality and being a team player. I think Pep's one of those, Rob, where he's gonna, don't think you're this, don't start giving any ego, you got to work hard for the team. I think he's one of them. I think he keeps everybody humble, and that's got to help when they come in. The attitude that's right. the work ethic. There's no luxury fancy dans coming into to Manchester City's team from the academy, and that is such an important part that Pep obviously knows is important. And by the way, it's the same with his previous clubs, particularly at Barcelona, with the players that came through there as well. That quality, possession, penetration, but hard work and mentality and attitude, I think as well is instilled in these kids.
Yeah, it's a really good shout. Just before we move on, we should talk a little bit about Newcastle, because obviously the injuries is a problem. I know everybody gets injuries, and I know in some ways it sounds a bit like a get-out for Eddie Howe in Newcastle, but I don't think it is. There's obviously issues, and at some point we were going to be talking about FFP and the financial regulations, because it's starting to hit home. Newcastle can't spend the money they would like. They've come quite public with that recently. Newcastle sit 10th in the league, mate. They're out of the Champions League, no European football. You know, league form's not been what they would like. Any worries for Eddie Howe at Newcastle?
Not for me, Rob, and I don't think for the club. I really, really don't. There was moments in that game where it felt like this is, you know, I've said before, I miss Newcastle United. I miss the real Newcastle, and I think we saw that for periods. With some of the intensity, the finishing, St James's Park against the champions. I mean, it felt good again. Yeah. I think we're my opinion is we're a long way from, and I know what you mean when you see where they are on the league table. I think we're a long way for him to be in the pressure for his job and to be looking over his shoulder or the phone, you know, when's a phone call? I think we're a long way from that. I think the players still love him to bits. I think the ownership and the board love him to bits. I think the players do, and I think the fans still appreciate what he's done and what he's continuing to do. Understand the way that they play and the injuries that they've had. Whether that means in the future they try and play a little differently to maybe avoid some of these injuries, possibly. But not for me, Rob. I mean, do you?
No,
you know,
I don't.
Different from that?
I think Bex asked me the question. That's why I thought I'll throw it to you. But no, I think credit in the bank, the way he goes about his business. I think he's got connection with the fans. I think they understand what, you know, other regimes have done and other managers at that football club, and it's not been nowhere near. And, you know, you've got to give the guy to get at least his team, his squad back healthy, be able to have some rotation. Yeah. So I mean, they're running on empty at times, and you know, these next couple of weeks hopefully means they get a bit of rest and we'll still have to get one or two back together. But no, I'd agree, and I'd be really disappointed. I think it would be a bad look on Newcastle and the ownership if they were to do something drastic, which I don't get the sense with the kind of people they've employed in the ownership group and Amanda Staveley, etc. I think there's a bit of stability there. So, but yeah, obviously Newcastle, you know, will want European football. I would think, Rob. That's got to be sort of the aim now. Maybe a domestic cup would be great,
I think so.
It?
Yeah. Of course, they're still in the FA Cup. They got knocked out the League Cup, knocked out the Champions League. I think within a few days. They beat Sunderland, of course, the bitter rivals just down the road. So yeah, I mean, I you know, it's one of them. You know, I think they can look at it. It's a huge learning curve. I mean, I just think they're a little unlucky. They spent really well. They got a squad that that's better to deal with more games, but they had so many injuries to players in similar positions that it hamstrung them, and.
Some bad luck as well, wasn't there? You sign Harvey Barnes, he gets a bad injury. The Tonali situation where you didn't see that coming, he's missing. You know, I mean, two really key players who would be difference makers. So, well, I'm
and
sure.
Also the penalty, remember the Champions League. Sorry, the Champions League as well. The refereeing, the awful VAR handball against PSG, which would have had him in the Champions League knockout.
Yeah,
I mean, just back onto your luck thing. It's been tough for them. Yeah.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.